You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. That's the great thing about sports. You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any wins. You go play to win. When you start telling me it doesn't matter, then retire. Get out. Because it matters.
He is 100% right on that. You play to win the game. And that is true for football, and that is true in life. You only get out of it what you put into it. Good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here. Joe Boo's holding down the red brick house, but I do got Joe Bear. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get open for business here and let's wake up those football gods. Boy, I wish we had those guys right now in their prime for the Dallas Cowboys. You know, it has been one hell of a ride for me doing YouTube. When my daughter said, "Dad, you should do a YouTube channel," and set it up for me, and I had to get her to upload the videos, which was, 2012, 2013, and in 2016, beginning to actually start getting some traction. In 2016, I got my first 1,000 subscribers. And I have to say, because somebody reminded me last night, they said, how long have some of you been watching the Joe Boo Sports Report? Walker Wade is one of the original ones, that he believed in me before anybody else did. And a lot of you guys remember when I used to be, my set used to be right over there. And my big upgrade was actually building one locker here, over there. And it's grown. The next year, another locker, another locker. It's grown, it's evolved, it's become live streaming for the games. I never thought in my wildest dreams and imaginations that I would be doing this, and that we're closing in on 140,000 subscribers. And it is humbling to me, all of the support and all of the friendships and all of the great people that I've met, and even the bad ones too. But it's been one hell of a ride, and I appreciate you guys. And I'm glad that amongst a season that's not what we wanted, nobody looked and said, "Hey, I want to see us at 3-5-1." We want to be like the Eagles, winning games and talking and thinking about the playoffs and doing great things. But you have to understand that in the same way, when I find a house that's dilapidated, that's falling apart, it's not livable the first week. You got to tear it down. You got to figure out what's worth saving of that house. Are the studs okay and everything else in there? Floor joists, well, these are rotted out. They need to be replaced. You know, the plumbing's no good because it's old, galvanized pipe and everything else that's leaching. Who knows what? There's no HVAC, so we got to get those units and put in the ductwork. It takes time to build a masterpiece. And I'm going to say that I've been fooled by the Cowboys over and over again. I have been, in the years that I've been doing this, I've been shoveling shit. When the Cowboys sign anybody, instead of saying, he ain't going to move the needle, I try and be positive and say, well, here's the reason why they did this and why they picked this guy, because they recognize that they've got a hole. And they've recognized that they've had a hole in the interior defensive line forever. The way they've gone through has been more to put a Band-Aid on it than actually go through the process of really fixing it. When you bring in a guy like Dontari Poe or Linval Joseph, that we know that their time is short, it's just a Band-Aid. For the first time, as bad as the season has been, as bad as my defense has been, I'm actually feeling better about the future of the team and feel better about the direction, at least right now. At least right now, I see that the Cowboys aren't doing the typical, let's get these guys that are named players that have played well in their careers and they're not getting signed by anybody and they're on their way out and we'll bring them in. Because that's what we usually do. The Gerald McCoys, the Clinton Dixes, the Don Terry Poes, and so on. They at least tried to bring in some guys that were younger, and that failed. Kyler Elam, Kenneth Murray, they just weren't. And I think they knew that from Jump Street because those guys have one-year deals that this is just a Band-Aid, okay? We're going to put a 2x4 up underneath that floor joist to keep it from cracking completely right now, understanding that that's only a temporary fix. And it may not even work because the 2x4 that you bought at Home Depot is going to bend and twist like crazy. It's probably going to bend and pop out, like a freaking bow, boom, and it's going to be gone. But what they've actually started doing, at least in my mind, or at least I want to believe this is, they've got a roster that's gotten young. Not every move has made it. But I look at it and I say, the Cowboys, the middle of their offensive line is stout. Cooper Beebe, the juggernaut, is good. And I'm going to tell you how you know that their draft pick, their number one draft pick, is doing good. Tyler Booker, because nobody's talking about him. Generally speaking, if you're an offensive lineman that's playing great, they don't talk about you. See, think about this. How much have we talked about Terrence Steele? It's not because he's playing great. We're talking about Terrence Steele because everybody on the edge in pass rushing is going past him. You talk about offensive linemen when they're bad. How much talk have you heard about Tyler Booker? Tyler Booker, his numbers are getting better every single week. He's one of the best offensive linemen from this draft this year. Cowboys got that. They got Cooper Beebe the year before, and we know Tyler Smith, although he's had a couple of nagging injuries this year, is great. You have built a great centerpiece of that offensive line, which is one of the reasons why Javonte Williams has been running as well as he has. You got problems on the right, and that's why Big Nate is getting the opportunity. That the Cowboys aren't doing the status quo saying, we paid that guy a lot of money, so he's got to start. They said, listen, you're playing ass. Get your ass out of here. We're going to find somebody to go there, regardless of what you're being paid. That's the way you have to play this. You play to win the game. I feel good about the situation right now. Now, the Cowboys and the Joneses can screw it up. They can screw it up real easy by saying, you know what? Hey, we can get a 4th-round comp pick for George Pickens, and, we figured that was great value. We put out a 3, we got a 4 back, and, we're going to take that 4th-round pick, and we're going to draft a no-name wide receiver to replace him, and we're going to believe in that guy. And we didn't believe in George Pickens because he wasn't one of our own guys. We didn't draft him. We didn't look at him and say he was going to be great, so we figured we got to get rid. That would be enough for me to go ahead and do a 180 and just say, F this team. Okay? I'm being real here. If the Dallas Cowboys let George Pickens go, that might be the final move that would be for me to question and just say enough is enough. I can't take it anymore and go the DMV route. It probably would be enough to finally have 2 incredible weapons for the quarterback and then say, you know what, we're going to Amari Cooper him. I would just lose my shit. After going through the last 3 years without a guy of that caliber. But even on the defense, we had to wipe the slate clean, and most people don't seem to understand that when Jerry Jones said we're all in, we're at the point where we continuously kept bringing in a piece here and a piece there and throwing it in there and signing big contracts to our players that we had, and it ended up not being enough. You can be mad about not re-signing Micah Parsons. You can really litigate it and say they should have done it sooner. But I'm looking at Green Bay at the moment and saying, I don't know that they're a Super Bowl team because they got Micah Parsons. I don't. But what I do know is the thing that I have asked for and begged for, screamed for, damn near cried for, is to have a defensive line. Because as we learned with Tony Romo, everything starts from the offensive line being able to block the defense. If you can do that, you can run the football, and if you can run the football, you can pass the football. We learned that, unfortunately, too late in Tony Romo's career. And Tony Romo was a shell of himself and could not stay healthy. We saw that early with the offensive line that they built with Dak Prescott, that it wasn't all on Dak's arm, that you had a legitimate running back. We just didn't have the defense enough to get there. And Aaron frickin' Rodgers did Aaron Rodgers things to us. So now you recognize that the Cowboys are taking a different approach on the defense. People will say, you need edge rushers. And you do. You always need good edge rushers. But understand, edge rushers aren't enough. The edge rushers aren't your tackling machines that stop the run. And our defensive line has been bad forever. We get a flash here and there. It's always been the edge rushers. DeMarcus Ware, Jason Hatcher, Micah Parsons, D-Law. Think back in that time where you looked at it and said, we had an outstanding defensive tackle in there. Oh my God, man, that guy's a beast. You didn't. Half the guys we've had, you probably don't remember most of them since Jay Ratcliffe. Until he turned into the Rat and went to the Bears. At least we're trying to build this from here. And I will say, if this defensive line can be as good as we hope, you may end up having a really good defense. And it's starting now. It's starting now because you're getting reinforcements. It's going to take time for those guys to all start working together. You didn't have a training camp with all of these guys and things. Savon Ravel has not had a training camp with the Cowboys. He's not played since last September. So pump your expectations down for week one. Overshown, coming back from injury, has not hit anybody and tackled anybody since he had the injury last year where he tore 3 ligaments in his knee. Pump the brakes a little bit on your expectations. But it's got to be better than what we've had. Logan Wilson, again, just got here. He's got to learn the system. But you are beginning the process of getting the materials and the tools that you need here to rebuild this house and this defense. And I do feel good about that. So if you are a Cowboy fan that has hopes for playoffs, I know playoffs, don't talk about playoffs. I know. Here's what you actually have to hope for this weekend, okay? And we'll get a better feel before we play Monday night. You have 4 games that are keys to the Cowboys' playoff hopes. I really don't think that the Eagles are going to fall all the way back down to earth to us. Although I do feel like they're a powder keg waiting to explode with the whole A.J. Brown situation and with the offense being as poor as it has been. I think that could implode. Your best chances are that there's only one playoff team and one wild card team that comes out of the NFC North. And none from the NFC South. That's your hope. So your hopes are on Atlanta beating Carolina. Carolina beat them like 30-0 the last time. Atlanta has been hot and cold, with their games and stuff. Carolina at 5-5, they hold a tiebreaker against us because we lost to them. But you need Atlanta to beat them. The next game that's really important is the Bears, surprisingly, 6-3, going against the Minnesota Vikings that are 4-5. Both teams are ahead of you, but you play Minnesota with an opportunity to be able to knock them back. What you need is Minnesota to beat the Bears. Now, the good news here is the NFC North is a circular firing squad. They haven't had that many games in the division like the NFC East has. So when you look at it, you know that they're going to be knocking each other back down to earth. And so Minnesota, if J.J. McCarthy, if 9 shows up and can beat the Bears, that helps you, gets them down to 6-4, and Minnesota at 5-5. The Green Bay Packers, you want to see Jameis Winston come through and play well and get a victory for the Giants. The Giant fans are probably thinking, we don't want to get any more victories this year. We got a new coach. We want a high draft pick. Screw the rest of the season. But if you were able to beat the Green Bay Packers, and this is probably the most important game really out here, regardless of playoffs or not, because you want Green Bay to implode. You want Green Bay to fall down and not make the playoffs so that draft pick is higher. So you got to root for the New York Giants. And then there's the San Francisco 49ers against the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals do own the tiebreaker against you, but you hope that with the return of Brock Purdy, that Brock Purdy ain't Purdy. That the Cardinals come in and do to San Francisco what they did to the Cowboys. And that would be a big boost for us as well if San Francisco went to 6-5. Now, none of that means shit if we don't start taking care of our own business. We have to win. And we pretty much have to win every week. It's playoffs. Monday night is a playoff game for the Cowboys. Let's be clear here. Monday night's a playoff game. Because if you lose, you're out. You're done. Flat and simple. And, of course, there is the Lions versus the Eagles. And you definitely want to see that game. You definitely want to see the Eagles lose that one. So it's going to be a busy day tomorrow. And I'll start, let's see, the first game is at 9:30. Yes. Washington, Miami. Wow, 9:30 in the morning. So we're going to be starting out early tomorrow, watching that shit fest. We're going to start out with Washington in the morning, and then the Giants at 1 o'clock. And then we have the Eagles, at the night game. That's going to be a long day. Oh, my God. But here, we'll either be able to look at this and say our season's done before we even play, or we might actually get some hope. So that's where we are. The good news is the Cowboys are getting healthy. There's only 2 players that did not practice. Excuse me. I'm getting a bit of a cold. There's only 2 players that did not practice this week, and that's Solomon Thomas, and that is Elijah Clark, our safety. Everybody else, it was either limited or full participant, and that includes Savon Ravel and Overshown were both full participants. So you're going to have a little bit of a new look on the offensive line. Big Nate is going to be your right tackle. Terrence Steele is put on the bench. Now, I'm going to say, don't feel bad for Terrence Steele. For Terrence Steele to be an undrafted rookie free agent and to end up getting that contract that was 80-some million plus and things, he'll get another opportunity elsewhere. I think he's going to be gone after the season as a post-June 1st cut. You just can't pay him $18 million. It's one of the mistakes the Cowboys made. So I want to finish this off this morning. Finish him. As much as we get tired of listening to him, is listen to Stephen Jones about the direction of the team. Two things I will say. One, when Jerry Jones speaks, Jerry Jones is full of shit. Okay? Jerry Jones will say whatever, whenever, however, for publicity. Stephen Jones, at least, he may tell you what you don't want to hear, but he's going to tell it like it is. Let's go to the tape.
As you know, we had some real challenges and things that put everything into perspective, and certainly, but I'm sure our team will be resilient, and I think our head coach said it best. We're not ever going to move on from that, but we'll move forward.
Yeah, that was a terrific line, and you got to love how Shoddy has, the ability to put his arms around a situation and provide some comfort or wisdom, or how would you describe it?
I think it's right. I just think it comes back to his authenticity. He's got a big heart. Everything about him's real. I know the team feels that way about him. I know his staff does. I know certainly ownership and management feel the same way. And I think he's just done an outstanding job of working with our team and working through his staff. As we said, going through a really difficult situation that certainly puts everything in perspective.
Stephen, speaking of difficult, you're going to bring back several players this week on your defensive side of the ball, and I just wondered about how that will work with some of the roster moves that you have to make. And I know we saw Solomon Thomas appear on the injury report yesterday, and calves could be a tricky thing. Are we looking at some IR stints here with some guys? How are you guys going to try and get some of these guys onto the roster this week?
Well, the guys are, obviously Revel and Overshone are on now.
Sure.
So we really got one move to make with Hooker. And we'll work through what that'll be, and, we'll make that move Monday.
Are we finally ready to see this damn good defense come together?
I'm ready. I'd love to see how these guys are going to play together, and certainly, when you're talking about the caliber of some of these guys, they certainly you would hope to think that that we're going to be better. And obviously, we hadn't played this year. It is what it is, and we know what it's been, but obviously the goal is to continue to work hard every week, and certainly, adding, the 4 or 5 players we're adding back into the mix. We hope that's going to make a big difference, and obviously there's some really good football players in that mix.
Yeah, I think it actually gets to 6 or maybe even 7 if you count Carson coming back there right before the bye. What was the after-action report on Kalen? It just looks so much more solid than his first year for us.
Yeah, he just, I think he's got a lot more confidence. I think he's, really for the first time since the beginning of last year, I think he really feels good physically. And, his body language is great out there. He's practicing hard. He not only, his defensive snaps were good, but, he played really good on special teams as well. So, it's, you're a lot different player when you're healthy and you can play fast.
Stephen, the coaching staff has talked about competition at the right tackle spot, and you've come on and talked to us about continuity. Is this difficult for you personally, too, or are you like, listen, coaches want to have a competition out there and we'll do it?
Yeah, I think, each coach has his own way about how he brings out the best in his players, and I'm certainly supportive. I do think at the end of the day, competition is good for everybody, and certainly, some competitions are more visual to media, to the public than others, but, in my mind, our guys are competing every day. All 53, and as I used to say as well, you're not only competing against the guys that are on the roster, but maybe guys that may be on another roster, and so and let go. But the at the end of the day, you just want everybody to go out there, practice their ass off, and get better.
Stephen, with your offensive line is in the Arizona game, you had some pressures. You've kind of had some pressures throughout, though. Just kind of talk about though. Is it been a little bit because the offensive line it was together and then their injuries? Is it been a little bit of that in how some of the play has been the last couple of weeks?
I just think it's at the end of the day, it's a little bit of everything, and that's why you got to go back to work each week. I mean, I think Coach Schottenheimer and Clayton and Connor would tell you, that they've got to do a better job. I think the offensive line guys will tell you the players have to do it. Our players will tell you
everybody's
got to
do a better job.
Dak will tell you he has to be better. Certainly, we hadn't played our best ball the last couple of games, and we look forward to Monday and getting a chance to get things back on track and being the type of offense we know we can be.
We were kind of looking at maybe having to go 6-2 to bring this thing into realistic shot of making the playoffs, and it's obviously week to week, and you got to control what you can control. But do you think that'd be a realistic goal for the final 8 games?
Yeah, like I said, we look at it week to week, and we know everybody's pretty aware of what usually takes to get in the playoffs. But the only way you're going to go on a run, which we need to do because we are in a hole, and we do need to get on a run. But the only way to do that is take each game week to week.
Stephen, the addition, of Quinnen Williams, I mean, you talked about earlier about how you need to help your run defense. How do you see the Quinnen Williams trade working out for you guys and how and what he brings for you guys defensively?
Well, when you add one of the dominant tackles, which is, we've been really, making a conscientious effort by bringing Kenny Clark in here and now Quinnen and, getting Osa taken care of in the offseason. I think it starts with the big guys in the middle, and now we got to go out and execute and have those guys work together. But whenever you add a guy of Quinnen's stature, which is an all-pro type football defensive player that's can be dominant against the run and getting pressure in the passing game, you got to believe you're going to get better, and certainly that's why we made the trade. Everybody was totally on board with making the trade. Obviously, it came at a price, but we think that Quinnen's not only going to be a big time help to our defense this year, but for years to come.
How late in the day did that one come together? Was that a Tuesday morning? Are we going to do this or not? Or did you have your idea set that you were going to do that eventually?
Well, they had always known, going back to our previous trade with Micah, that we had interest in Quinnen. And so they knew we were aware. And, but usually those things don't come together. I mean, the finality of it comes together quickly, but usually it's because you've been visiting and throwing things around for days.
What can you tell us about the reported poison pill clause that was there in that trade with Micah? Was it true that if they would have flipped him to Philadelphia, they would have owed you another one?
Well, we want to talk about our future and certainly Quinnen Williams, and don't want to get into things we've done in terms of our business in the past.
How much do you see all three of those big guys being on the field together at the same time?
I think you're going to see it quite a bit. As you saw in the last game, we thought we played better defensively and made improvements. And, we ran a lot of 5-man fronts. And certainly when you look at a 5-man front that's got those three guys in the middle there, you got a chance to do some exciting things. And, we've got some good young end coming along fast in 41, Easy or Dono. I don't ever try to say his name, but
at least I'm not the only one.
At the end of the day, he's coming along, and we got, a lot of other guys there that can help with the pressure. So I do think you're going to see all three of these guys on the field quite a bit.
Stephen, with Ravel, coming back to the, and you mentioned being on the roster and stuff and practice and all that. I thought he was one of the best corners in the draft when I watched him play, and that's with with the injury and stuff. How do you feel about him, the rehab, all that stuff? And I know there's going to be some things of him having to work back in, but just your thoughts from a scouting perspective of him when you selected him.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously agree with you. We thought he was one of the better corners in the draft. I think he may have been had some of the best skills of anybody, and but certainly didn't play at a Power 5 type conference or that type of thing. But the biggest thing is he hadn't played football in almost a year, and he's just been really diligent in his rehab process. Britt Brown would tell you he's one of the best he's had, being a young guy. and I know he's excited, but he hadn't gotten to play any football other than the practices we've had over the last 3 weeks. So, right now it looks like he's going to get his feet wet and should be active, and we'll bring him along and fired up about what his future looks like.
There we go. We'll leave it right there with Stephen Jones. With the production that we're going to get out of him, he's only had 3 weeks of time of actually working out with the team, but we're going to get him in there. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you guys, and don't forget, we will be having our members live stream at 5 o'clock today, and I hope to see you guys there. Peace out.
Well, that's great. That's just fucking great, man. Now what the fuck are we supposed to do? We're some real pretty shit now, man.
You finished?
That's it, man.